In this lesson, we're going to walk through the various pricing models available for EC2. There are essentially three ways to pay: on demand, with a reservation, or with spot. The important thing to note is that you get the exact same instance in each case. This pricing is just a billing construct. In each case, the capacity is not guaranteed, even for reservations. Amazon rarely runs out of capacity, but it has happened. The pricing model for EC2 makes a huge difference in your final bill from AWS. Roughly 70+% of your Amazon bill will be EC2. And if you leverage different pricing models, you can pay up to 70% less for the exact same instance. Let's first look at on demand. On demand is the highest cost, but it has no upfront commitment. Next, we have reserved, where you pay a one-time upfront reservation fee in exchange for a lower hourly fee. It's possibly the lowest cost for dedicated instances. Dedicated meaning that it cannot be taken away. Spot is the lowest overall cost, but spot can be taken away. There are 1- and 3-year term contracts available for reservations, but it is restrictive. A reservation must specify a particular AZ, a particular instance type, a particular platform, be it Linux or Windows, and a term of 1 or 3 years. Let's look more closely at reserved instances. The best thing to think of is plans. We're all used to buying everything on plans, houses, cars, and so forth. If you have a down payment of nothing, you have to pay for the whole product. With a different plan, you can pay more upfront in exchange for a lower ongoing payment. This is sort of the same thing that happens with Amazon. If you have no plan, you're essentially doing on demand. But the Platinum, Gold, and Silver provide a higher down payment initially for a lower ongoing cost. The reality is Amazon uses these terms high usage, medium usage, and low usage. And the payment that you do is obviously a first payment, not really a down payment. The one place where the name does have meaning is on high usage. High usage is charged as though it's always on 24/7 every day of the year. Reserved is actually a whole lot more complicated in that you can specify individual 3-year or 1-year terms. I'm using this to show you that a 3-year reservation has a higher initial payment, but the lower hourly cost, the lowest possible. One thing you can consider with on-demand and reserved is mixing them together. This gives you a good balance of cost savings and flexibility. Here we have that well-known daily curve that looks like that. This could be a web product that you've had running in your system forever. You can buffer most of your capacity with reserved instances and supply the rest with on-demand. The question always comes up, how do you apply reservations? And the answer is always, you don't, Amazon does. If you have a reservation for a particular instance in a specific AZ of a specific type with a specific OS, Amazon applies that reservation automatically. You're always charged the lowest rate possible. Or are you? In some cases, customers have found that on-demand can be cheaper than reserved. The reason for this is Amazon continues to cut pricing. They've cut prices 21 times in the last 4 years. Customers have looked at this trend line and figured out that over 3 years, on-demand could actually be cheaper. That's if the trend line holds up. Again, past performance is no indication of future. If you do buy the wrong reservation, you can now sell it on the Amazon Reserved Instance Marketplace. This may also be a good place to look for your reservation before you buy it directly from Amazon. Let's look now at spot instances. The biggest difference between spot instances and on-demand and reserved are that on-demand and reserved are stable. Amazon cannot intentionally shut your servers down. Of course, Amazon could experience problems and your on-demand and reserved instances could go down, but Amazon doesn't do it on purpose. With spot, they will do it on purpose. With spot instances, you're essentially bidding for unused capacity in a data center. If your bid gets filled, you get the instance. If, however, the spot price goes above your bid, you're going to lose that instance without warning. Amazon determines the spot price rather than the market. Amazon, of course, uses the supply and demand available on an AZ to determine that price. But if you're like me, the first time you saw this, the big question you ask is, if I can lose the instance at any time without warning, why would I ever want to use spot? There are good use cases. For example, batch jobs, offline processing, or big data analysis. EMR or Elastic MapReduce, which is essentially Hadoop in AWS, can use spot for the worker nodes, saving a ton of money. You can also use it for throwaway environments, such as testing and development. You can also use it for buffering user-facing web traffic. This is a very advanced use case, but let's explore it next. Similar to the previous graph we reviewed showing on-demand and reserved, each showing a part of your overall web traffic, you could also use Spot as so, with reserved at the bottom, on-demand in the middle, and Spot at the very top, serving the peak only. Some of the best practices for Spot are to break your work into the smallest pieces possible and return useful results as soon as possible. If you can break your work down into batches that can be accomplished in a few seconds rather than a few minutes, you increase your chances of your Spot instance being able to do something useful before its plug gets pulled. You also want to minimize the data copy in and out, like the SETI at Home project, which some of you may be familiar with. SETI at Home actually chunked up very, very small pieces of data and sent it to individual computers. Those individual computers would analyze the data and send back a result very quickly. If you're going to use Spot to serve peak, make sure that you set your bid price very high. Make sure that you have a failover to on-demand enabled if your bid is not fulfilled. To help you determine an accurate bid price, you can review the historical prices in the web GUI, clicking first Spot instances on the left rail and then pricing history at the top. You can also consume this programmatically. Spot prices do get bid up. We see here that there are several large spikes. Some of these spikes can get very, very large, but they happen mainly for short periods of time. Spot price is mainly bid up by scientific and financial institutions who may have a big data analysis that they want to run, and they're willing to pay any price for any instance in that particular AZ. The use cases for on-demand are if you're new to AWS and you're not yet sure which AZ and instance type that you'll be using long-term, or you're not sure that you'll stay with AWS, or if you have new products whose daily usage curve is not yet known, or you can use it also for buffering known curves where reserve serves the base. You can also use it for prototyping, or if you feel that the EC2 price trend line will continue. The use cases for reserved are many, but it mainly starts with you being established with AWS. You know exactly which AZ and instance type you'll be using for long-term. This essentially comes down to established products where the daily usage curve is known, or to buffer known curves where the reserved serves base, and then perhaps Spot and/or on-demand serves the upper layers. Make sure you choose your pricing wisely. Start slow with on-demand, add in reservations as it makes sense, investigate ways that you can leverage Spot because the savings are significant, and keep watching AWS pricing. Keep recalculating the cheapest option and adjust as time goes on. Again, this presentation was covering the pricing model for EC2 and the 3 ways to pay, with on-demand, reservations, and Spot.